Hello and welcome to another episode of the Strong by Design podcast show. Hosting today, Coach Chris Wilson. So happy to have you. Thank you for joining the show. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. Great to have you. We have so much on our podcast. It's in its fifth season, fifth year, and we have just hundreds of great past episodes for you to go back and listen to and enjoy. There's something there for everybody, I promise you. If you're trying to get stronger in any area of your life, health, fitness, wellness, leadership, faith, you name it, we have talked about it at length, and there's probably multiple episodes about that particular topic. So please go back. I mean, parenting, I can go on and on. There's so much that we've talked about. If you're a return listener, then you know that you're in store for a great conversation today, and we just thank you so much. Every week we release an episode with a different guest, or sometimes just an in-house conversation among the hosts of the show, or even solo episodes where we just grab a topic and run with it for a little while. And we just like testing new things out, trying some new things that we've done this year in 2022. And once you know it, we've seen our most growth as a podcast just this year, with just more downloads than ever and more listenership. So thank you so much for coming back. Again, I'm very excited about the topic today because this is one for me. I'm going to have a lot of natural questions for our guest today. A lot of just as we go through this material, there's just going to be certain things that I want to know from her, myself, which will then in turn help you out, which is always great because this podcast can do a lot of things. It can inspire, it can educate, right? It can get people just fired up for exercise in their life, or taking control of their nutrition, of maybe having a stronger walk with God, or faith-based episodes that we've had. We've had coaching and leadership conversations, so a little bit of everything, as I've said. And so let's get into it. Now, you got to help me with the pronunciation of your name. I failed to. Usually I go over this before I punch record, but you know what? You got me. So let me give it a try on my own, and then you can correct me. Is it Jovanka?
That's it.
Okay. And then is it Ciares?
That's it.
Oh, okay. So I know you're from Puerto Rico originally, so I did take 4 years of Spanish in high school, and so I was trying to glean some of my Spanish education growing up. But okay, good, very good. So our guest today, Jovanka, is an herbalist. She's an executive coach and an author, doing some great stuff. So what this is, she's a certified wellness expert. Okay. She is an integrative herbalist, which we're going to get to later in the conversation because I really know very little about that side of health. She's a nutrition educator, as I've said, a wellness coach and author, and she speaks, she does lectures and workshops in both Spanish and English, which already makes her pretty awesome. She studied nutrition with best-selling author at his Center for Nutrition Studies, which is Dr. Campbell, and that's where she also did some herbalism and plant medicine, right, as well. And she is a native of Puerto Rico, as I said, which is a place that I have been once before in my life, and I absolutely loved it back in high school, an exchange trip, 2 weeks in Puerto Rico with the most beautiful people I'd ever seen before. And she currently lives in LA. And so welcome to the show, Jovanka. Great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. That's a great intro, and I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Yes, and I almost had to put my foot in my mouth with the name introduction, but luckily I saved myself. But I appreciate you working with me on that one. So, knowing all this, obviously you've been at this for several years now, really educating people, helping people to live healthier lives, and really kind of take control of their wellness, right? Of their well-being, which is in large part what we're trying to do on our podcast, is to really arm people with information to inspire, hopefully change, for people to, be able to move in a better, healthier direction in their life, right? So The topic, though, of today really is central to the nutrition industry as a whole. The topic of sugar, right? Sugar seems to be in just about everything that we eat. It's a highly addictive food. People don't realize the hidden sugars that are in things, the differences between natural, artificial sugars, and all of this stuff. And we're going to get to some of the great work that you've been doing a little bit deeper in the show. But I really want to help people understand this topic a little bit on a deeper level with an expert like yourself. So if you could, and I'm going to ask some pretty simple questions, but I think these are kind of the questions that people want to know. What's the difference between natural sugar and artificial sugar? Or, and you can go as deep on this as you want.
This is the kind of question I get almost every single day. Are we designed to consume sugar? Why are we so attracted to this thing? And why is it causing so much pain these days? The truth of the matter is that we do have inherited systems and mechanisms to be attracted to sugar. Just the same way that we, from thousands and thousands of years ago, we saw a little plant and it had these colorful things, red and orange and yellows, that we now know as fruit. And we naturally gravitated towards it. And nature, Mother Nature in all its wisdom, decided to put something that was really palatable in front of us so that we could be attracted to consuming it over and over. And with it, consuming all the fiber, all the phytochemicals, the enzymes, the vitamins and nutrients that we actually need. So I use sugar as fruit as an example. But truly, there's a lot of carbohydrates in the plant world that also have natural sugars. And those are designed to help us stay healthy, but also designed to not be detrimental. So everything that has a good thing may have a bad thing, or there's always a yin to a yang. And nature will have a way to say, this is really good for you. And this stuff that is not so good for you is going to be a relatively small amount. Now, fast forward to, the beginning of the 20th century, when we started to decide that it was okay to produce foods from a lab or add things to our foods to make them easier and faster and long shelf life and whatnot. And now we have a situation where these added sugars, these things that we add to the products, either as preservative or to increase their palatability, are causing us to become really, really ill. It suppresses our immunity. We can talk about that a little bit more in more detail. It actually kills the mechanism that allows us to kill bad cells and rejuvenate good cells. And if you do that from the time you're a teenager all the way up to your 40s and 50s, that's the reason why we're struggling with all of these preventable conditions.
Yes, right. And you're seeing things obviously like cancers and diabetes and all of these diseases that are really predicated on sugar in large part, because the little that I do know, I'm no expert in this area, but I have had on experts. I had on an internist. If you go back episodes 219 and 220, and an internal medicine doctor who's unbelievable, Dr. Boz, is a 2-part episode. And we talked about, obviously, sugar's impact on cancer and cancer growth, cancer activity. And she is a huge proponent of the keto diet to help, obviously, kill cancer and fight cancer. Is that something that you've had a little bit of, you've spent any time researching or diving into? I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, preventable conditions, what we know today as the diseases of the wealthy nations. So things like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, even Alzheimer's, which in many ways today is considered type 3 diabetes. Because, and remember a few minutes ago, I talked about the inability of cells to actually kill themselves when they're not well. This process is called apoptosis. And it's a naturally occurring mechanism where when a cell is actually growing out of control or is not well, it destroys itself. But when it's already too old, it destroys itself, allowing newer cells to rejuvenate, right, and propagate. In the case of cancer, it's essentially a process where that apoptosis is not working functionally well. But in Alzheimer's, it's even more, specific because it starts when we're in our 30s. with this process where your body says, I have this thing that doesn't belong in my body, but I don't know how to kill it. I don't know how to get rid of it. This is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about herbs, is because herbs have the ability to help us when we're not well in that particular respect. And so eventually you do that in your 30s and in your 40s and in your 50s. And when you turn 60, you have too many of these cells propagating and multiplying in a way that they're not meant to be multiplied.
Right. Yeah, and that's obviously a very scary thing. I mean, ultimately, everyone wants to live longer and live better, and try to avoid disease as much as possible. And that really does come down to the choices and decisions that we're making every single day. Thus, the name of our show, Strong by Design. We are strong by the way we are designed, by the way we are created, but then we are also, it's a two-part meaning, but we're also strong in the way that we design our lifestyle, the way we design our day, the choices that we make from when we wake until when we go to bed. And it's a conscious effort to consume things into our body, right? Drinks, food, whatever it is, exercise, how much movement we get in a given day, and all of those things stacked on top of each other over a period of decades will determine where your health is at age of 60.
Absolutely. It's exactly what you just said. It so beautifully, because people ask me all the time, what is wellness? What is this thing? And it's exactly what you described. It's an active verb. Every choice you make, what you feed your mind, but what you feed your body and your soul, eventually lead to a state of wellness. And it might be balanced very different for you because your goals are different than mine, or my situation might be different than yours. But it doesn't mean that we cannot make conscious decisions every single day to try to get closer to that state of balance.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely right. I love speaking with experts, people that know far more than me on a particular topic, and I can really just, get something out of this conversation that I would ordinarily want to have in my personal life, but then I get to have it on the show and then share it with hundreds and thousands of other people on the other end. And then now they're armed with some more information and making better choices and just living a little cleaner, a little healthier, substituting this for that. And again, over time, having real change in their life because of some of those smaller decisions that they started to make that became good habits. So I think what a lot of us want to know, because a lot of people don't understand the science, even me to some, I do to some degree, but why is sugar so highly addictive? What makes it just something that we are just craving?
Yeah. Sugar is one of those things that we, like I said earlier, we have systems and mechanisms to help us be attracted to it. But at the end of the day, an addiction is just our inability to control at a physical level what is happening and our choices and behaviors. Sugar releases dopamine in our body and opioids. It's very similar to what chemicals like prescription drugs do when we take them in, or other drugs. And you've probably heard the concept that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. And there is some truth to that, because in animal studies, we have seen that when you actually put cocaine into a system, in the case of these particular studies, it might have been a mouse, and they get addicted. And then you do the exact same thing with just sugar, with simple sugars, and the animals have the exact same, those two substances have the exact same effect in the chemistry of the brain. So sugar has the ability to change the brain chemistry. It harm the activity and the conversation between our brain and our stomach. Remember, your stomach is your second brain. And there is a constant conversation between those two, right? Every time you get a little craving or a little hunger pang, it might be your brain saying, I need vitamin E, or I need more protein, or I need, water, or whatever it is. We don't know what that is. At the end of the day, a hunger pang is a hunger pang to us. But if we slowly start recognizing that this conversation is happening, we can easily start working on reversing some of the sugar addiction. So to finish the thought, once that conversation between brain and stomach gets disrupted by a substance like sugar, your brain starts to send continuous signals, like when you are addicted to something. I need more, I need more. And you, in turn, not understanding what's happening, will go back to your kitchen and have a piece of bread, or might have some ice cream, or whatever else you will have. And your brain will feel satisfied by that dopamine reaction, that happy hormone thing that makes you feel, nice and content for about 15, 20 minutes. And then once that you have that blood sugar crash, you're having two issues. You're having the blood sugar crash, and you're having the mechanism of the brain saying, no, give me more. I didn't get the nutrients that I need. And I'm also like a little bit hooked up on this thing that's going to give me an instant gratification. And we do that over and over and over, pound after pound after pound, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, without question. And obviously we've seen, we're in an all-time high, at least in the U.S., right, with obesity being such an issue here, the land of abundance, right, where, and it's obviously it's another issue. Like, yes, there are still people going hungry in our country, but overall, I'm obviously generalizing here, that most of us have far more than we could possibly need or want. I mean, oftentimes it's the stuff from the middle of the grocery store rather than on the sides and the outer lying edges of the grocery store, right? Our cupboards and our cabinets are just packed with packaged food items, things that are, as you said earlier, designed and to be preserved for extended periods of time, right? How can a food item be good for you? Obviously, there's canned items, which you can have healthy foods in cans or frozen, of course. I'm talking dry goods, dry stuff. Typically, a lot of that can just sit on a shelf for weeks and months at a time and not go bad. It's like, what's keeping it, what's keeping it edible, right? What's keeping it from going bad on you, right? It's got a lot of extra stuff in it, and oftentimes sugar is one of those key ingredients. So you had said something earlier about our immune function, our immune system. Obviously, everybody is aware that our immune system, that's our line of defense. That's what our body fights a disease with a cold, whether it's a cold or flu or COVID or anything, any kind of inflammation, right? It's a response to that. So what does sugar do to our immune function, to our immune system?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I guess it has like a two-pronged answer. The first one is what you just mentioned, right? Inflammation, that's critical. Sugar, especially simple sugars, will cause an acidic environment in the body where your body, we talk about the pH balance of the body a lot in herbalism. That whole concept that we measure the majority of the fluids in our body, knowing that water is the majority of it. So we're roughly slightly alkaline or acidic. Now I can't remember. I think the average body.
I think it's slightly above into alkaline, 7 point whatever, yeah.
But a lot of the stuff that we feed ourselves, like caffeine and sugars and processed foods and excessive amounts of salt and too much animal flesh, not enough live foods, will cause that excessive acidic environment. And in that acidic environment, it's very easy for inflammation to continue to distribute itself around the body, for viruses and bacteria to continue to propagate. Your body has an inability to fight off diseases. The second thing that's important to remember is that our immune system involves a lot of organs and systems, right? We have our elimination organs, which are critical to keep and stave off diseases by eliminating things that don't belong in our bodies. But also we have our urinary system, we have our endocrine system, we have a respiratory system. All of those work together very well to get rid of pathogens that don't belong in our bodies. When you have too much sugar, your brain and your body may not know the difference between, oh, this is just a virus or a bacteria or something that's just there that I cannot eliminate. I don't have the capacity any longer to eliminate it. and eventually it leads to a lower immune response. And by that, I mean, every single day, your body will just try to get above the thing that's going to cause harm. And eventually it starts to jump over it, and eventually it can't do it. And eventually it just stays down here. And that disease or that pathogen or whatever it is may take over, causing a lot of disruption in your body. And by the way, we're not necessarily talking about life-threatening diseases, right? Like heart disease or cancer. We might be talking about autoimmune disorders. There's a lot of people out there walking around with severe allergies and asthma and IBS and even constipation, which is not technically a disease. It's a symptom of...
It can probably feel like a disease. Luckily, that's not an area I've dealt with too often. I've been very, shall we say, regular in my life. But I know. Listen, when your diet's a mess, when you don't take control of your nutrition and of your hydration, right, and make these good choices on a daily basis, it messes with that second brain, as you said. Our gut and our brain are closely tied. And when you're messing, you just don't feel right. So if you're constipated, you got other stuff going on too, and it's that cannot be fun. I feel for people that are in that kind of situation.
Yeah, women especially, we tend to be, men by nature have bigger muscles and their internal muscles are stronger as well. So they tend to struggle less with constipation. But women, my ladies, we're all struggling.
Yes, especially pregnant women or around pregnancy, they can really struggle with stuff like that. I have sister-in-laws and my wife and all that, and I know it's not, can be not fun for a period of time. Yeah. So I feel for people like that. So what are some, now that you've done a lot of good here, just educating people a little bit, but what are some of those worst culprits, shall we, the high sugar foods that people should kind of let's minimize or maybe try to remove this from our regular diet?
The first thing I would tell you is that I call them the evil five or the fast five or the five whites. And it's important that you remember because very few things in nature are actually very nice and white and pristine. So white flour, white sugar, white rice, milk or dairy, white dairy or milk, and then salt. Believe it or not, excessive amounts of salt are actually highly problematic. Your brain will actually get highly addicted to salt as much as it does to sugar or other substances. And you could potentially end up with a very similar set of symptoms as if you were addicted to sugar. So we got to pay attention to those.
Wow. Okay. So that list again, one more time, go through that.
White flour. So everything that comes with it, right? Bread, pasta, etc. White bread, white sugar, everything that it has added sugars in it. White rice, which, believe it or not, people think of it as a healthy foods. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And I tell you this as a Puerto Rican who ate white rice twice a day most of my life. So white rice, milk or dairy especially the ones that have been heavily processed, and cheeses, all of those are very, very acidic to the body. And especially in our digestive system, they have the ability to kind of get stuck in the walls of our digestive system and cause a lot of havoc. And finally, salt.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, some of those are definitely were on my radar, but a few of them kind of, I was like, oh, okay. But I do get, and see, I think sometimes people, their brain immediately goes to eliminate, right? Versus moderate or decrease intake. Because there's going to be people that go, I love my cheese, or my kid drinks milk, or I have cereal every day. Or what would you say, to some of those? Or I like to put, fresh cracked salt on my eggs in the morning and stuff like that. And I'm talking about myself.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I'm in that same vein. The first thing I will tell people is, to remember to give themselves grace and patience. If you are addicted to any of those substances, there's no, getting rid of it cold turkey. It's not going to happen. You're going to fall off that proverbial bandwagon and then feel like a failure and then go back to bad habits. If instead we start recognizing where the problem is, and then in the program that I created, I have a little chart to help people. If you're in the middle of it, like you're in the middle of a craving crisis, what to do within an hour, but more importantly, what to do every single day to help you change your habits. Remember, it takes our brain 21 to 28 days to build a new habit. So you did not get addicted overnight. You're not going to get out of it overnight. So you got to take this process slowly but steadily. One of the first things that I tell people is to do this thing that I call the reduce and replace method. It's a method I created. It's really not scientific, but it works for me and my clients. It's with that same idea that it takes about 21 to 28 days to build a new habit. What can I reduce today? Say, I know that cheese is not that great for me, but I love my cheese and I'm never going to get rid of it. That's fine. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the amount of cheese by maybe 1/4 a day and replace it, because we don't like voids. We don't like to leave a space there. It's just going to be filled with bad things. So we're going to reduce by 1/4 and replace with something that we know is healthy for us, right? And that might mean different things to you than it means to me. But we're going to start recognizing that the body's talking to us. Maybe you want to, honor it by writing in a journal. How do I feel after reducing my cheese intake by 1/4? Am I angry? Am I cravey? Am I, upset? Am I sad? What is it that I'm feeling? And you try that for a few days. And then you move on to reducing it a little bit further down and replacing it with something else. Chances are in 28 days, you have built an amazing new habit. Your taste buds have shifted. You are a completely different human with a new array of options for you to consume.
Yeah. No, it's great. And it's why I encourage people with in past podcasts, whenever they want to introduce change into their life, is to do the baby steps, is to kind of just have these little mini victories that you can build on each other and let yourself get there slowly. Because most of us, there are people out there that can cold turkey things and make change in their life. But that's a very small percentage, I think, of anyone. Most people, they don't like to think. They know maybe they should start to do something that's good for them, but they're not going to be able to do it in a day, as you've said. So I like the reduction or the reducing of something as you replace with something that's healthier. And then over time, as you said, you will start to be able to kind of break from that addiction or that need for that item. I've done a better job. I'm a cheese guy. I love my cheese, but I used to, back in the day, I would buy, blocks of cheese, to be able to slice and have with my lunch or whatever. And this is, a couple decades ago, and I could get away with eating pretty much as I wanted to, right? Because I'm a young guy, and I was exercising and lifting heavy weights and doing all this stuff. You get away with it, but as you get older, things catch up with you, and you realize, wow, that's a lot of fat I'm eating. Not to mention, right, the other side of it, the fact that it's a dairy item, but there's so much fat too. I know we're talking sugar, but there's so much hidden fats in so many of our highly sugary foods that those two things together can really take us off track. There's your healthy fats. You want to keep eating those, but there's so many of these not so healthy fats that are found in a lot of the items that you mentioned there. So yeah. So. Okay, so this is good. So maybe there's something on that list of the Fast Five or Fast and Furious Five or the worst five or whatever you want to name them that somebody knows right off the bat. Yes, I need to reduce that a little bit in my life. No question about it. And oftentimes I want to make one quick point. There's a lot of people out there that confuse hunger with thirst. Sometimes, because so many people that are just dehydrated and they don't realize it. And they're feeling those hunger pangs, but really it's your body's need for water. And they fill that need with food. Whereas if I have a big thing of water here, if you just drank a large glass of water, that would probably over like a 5 or 10 minute period of time help to settle your hunger.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I mean, by the time we get that thirst, that feeling, we're getting dehydrated. We're in trouble. Right. And the average person wandering the earth today is dehydrated. We're supposed to take half our body weight in ounces of water, and 8 glasses of 8 ounces is for a person that's 120 pounds.
Yeah.
So anyone over 120 pounds not taking more than 8 glasses of water is dehydrated. That just comes to tell you where we are.
Yeah, I'm 220, so I got to pretty much double that, and I'm sure there's a lot of days, more often than I would care to share, where I have come up short in that department. But there's quick ways to get around that is, start every day with a glass of water, drink water with every single meal, every 1 or 2 hours, get up from your desk or whatever and go take a quick sip of water somewhere, go for a walk and drink some water. I mean, keep water with you wherever you go, kind of thing.
Use your water. If you're the kind that can't drink something unless it has some flavor, add some lemon or some strawberries or some herbs or something to make it nice and tasty.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It goes right in line because your body needs water for everything that it's doing, for digestion, right? For proper energy, for proper cognitive feelings, to help your urinary system, right? So find those opportunities in your day to consume more water. It's very rare that someone would over-consume water. It's very hard to do that. The worst thing is you're just in the bathroom going pee a little bit more, but
I would take that.
Right. I'll take it. It's not the worst thing in the world. Okay. So what are some of these chronic diseases or some of the things that came up earlier in our conversation that are kind of an effect of overconsumption of sugar in our lives? What are some of these diseases that we could probably impact if we find ways to reduce our sugar intake?
Yeah. I mean, certainly the first ones all involve the digestive system. Remember, sugar, because of its acidic kind of ways, will kill beneficial bacteria in your gut, leading to issues like leaky gut, like IBS, which I was diagnosed with many, many years ago, like Crohn's disease and many others. So if you happen to have struggling with any kind of digestive issue on the vein of the ones that I mentioned here, reducing sugar consumption is going to make a huge impact, a positive impact in your life. Then we know the very serious ones so these are the chronic ones, and some of the other chronics that may not be life-threatening include other autoimmune disorders. And those include things that go as little as IBS, or as life-threatening as diabetes, or even cancer, which in some instances is considered autoimmune, right? An inability of your immune system to work by killing the cells that are not supposed to be there. I mentioned earlier Alzheimer's, which we now know that it in many ways could be considered type 3 diabetes. And that's something for all of my millennials, all of the people listening that are under 30 years old. Pay attention, because as you said, we take it for granted when we're really young. And it is on those early years that things start wreaking havoc in our system, and they manifest into disease 30 years later. And the goal is for us to get to our 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, feeling amazing with a lot of energy and hopefully healthy.
Yeah. It's great. And you want to see people, in our lives, right? People in our circle, your family, your friends, people that are getting up there in age, you want to see them make those healthier choices and decisions, right? Because you want them to live forever, you want them to enjoy that last third of their life, 60s and beyond, and enjoy retirement and be able to do things physically, right? Be active and still walk and travel and see the world. But what ends up happening with a lot of our older folks, even as smart and as healthy or as much information is out there about being healthy, there's still so much chronic disease and still people that are bedridden or really just home ridden, if you will, stuck in their homes, unable to really live out a good, enjoyable life later in life. But it really comes down to how you can turn things around when you're 60 and start make better decisions and undo some of the damage. But it's kind of, if the damage is done by 60, it's really hard to make those changes then, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, our bodies have this amazing ability to rejuvenate and get healthy. The liver is a perfect example of an organ that has this ability to get healthy, even from the brink of death. But you have a good point. The idea is that by the time we get 60 to 60, we might, be struggling a lot with our medical bills. And we know today that those medical bills are only going to get more and more expensive. And unless we have millions and millions of dollars in the bank, we need to do something to avoid getting to that point. But at the end of the day, it's all about recognizing, as you said in the sign that you have right behind it, which I love, you are made in God's image. You have this amazing thing we call a machine. A body is an amazing machine, and it needs to be treated like a 5-star hotel or like a Tesla. You would never, ever buy a Maserati and then put the cheapest oil on your amazing machine. So we got to honor this amazing thing we call a body with every single choice we make every day.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, good choice. Maserati. It's a beautiful automobile. Love it. That's right. You're going to put the best stuff that you can buy on there. You're going to put the best tires on that car. Because when you sit in that car and take it for a drive, you want to see what it can do. You want it to perform at its best. You don't want to seize the engine or give it the cheap gas or the cheap oil or the worst, performing tires. You invest in yourself. And there's so much that we can do in our own lives to really take control and dictate how we're going to feel and function later in life. We don't have to leave it to the medical experts to give us the right pill to take.
Right.
Sometimes the best answer is to just never have to get to the point where you need to take that pill.
Right.
And that's kind of where I've been at. Now, some of us aren't that fortunate, and there's conditions that we have where we need medicine to interact and help us. And God bless the people that have created these drugs out there to help people and feel better and fight pain and do all this. But there's so much that we can do ourselves as well. And maybe it's even a joint effort there. So tell me a little bit more about what you're doing when it comes to the herbal side of things and using plants really as our medicine. Just anywhere you want to go with that, because it's kind of a wide open thing, but I know it's really interesting to you and you're a bit of an expert there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love my plants. I love botanicals. I'm trained as an herbalist. The reality of the matter is that every culture around the world has used plants to help us achieve, whether it is physical healing or emotional healing. So whether you are using modern supplements, as we call them today, or just simply going to the market and embracing herbs and spices, you will be practicing something incredible with great safety data. I mean, a lot of these plants, you can actually agree that about 200 or 300 of these botanicals, you'll hear me talk about botanicals or herbs interchangeably. But these plants have been studied so well. And so the data is actually really strong in terms of safety. But more importantly, the reason why I love them so much is because in this society where we need instant gratification, herbs are a great way to achieve that. You can take a tea or you can take a substance in powder form or in pill form. And within a matter of hours in some cases, sometimes just a few days, you start feeling amazing. And then it's a lot easier for you to make more drastic changes and get to that level of achieving wellness. I love my plants. When it comes to sugar, there's a lot of them out there that are going to be helpful for you. I can start mentioning a handful of them if you want me to.
I was going to say, if you wouldn't mind, give me like 5 to 10 things that are maybe on or not even close to being on people's radar in terms of what they may look into for adding into their daily, weekly diets, like ways to supplement what they're eating. Like, if you wouldn't mind, because I got a little notepad and a pen. I'm ready to go. I want to hear from the expert. Like, what do you recommend for someone who's generally trying to eat pretty clean, include more whole foods in their diet, drink more water, do the things that they know are good for them? What are some of these herbals or botanical things that they can add in it that you say, oh, for sure, this is good for everybody?
Okay, great. So I'm going to start with the simplest one. And there's two that I believe are simple that you should have in your kitchen every single day. And they are garlic and ginger. Garlic, I'm talking about real garlic, not the stuff that is, in those tubes that you buy in the supermarket. I'm talking about consume 5 to 6 garlic cloves every single day. Crush them, blend them. I don't know what you're going to do with them, but do them. They're antiviral, antibacterial. They improve your immune system. They protect your respiratory system. It's just incredible. Ginger, on the other side, is a panacea. What is it not good for? It's good for your digestive system. It helps reduce pain. It helps with bloating and gas. It helps with cramping. So it helps you absorb and retain minerals like calcium and magnesium that we tend to strip a lot with a diet that's highly acidic. I normally have them in the root that you buy in the market. I cut tiny little slices and put it in water. I boil about a gallon of it every single day. Sometimes it lasts me a day. Sometimes it lasts me 2 or 3 days. But drink it, add it to your smoothie instead of your milk or your coconut water. You will love me. It's also warming and very, very grounding. So
how many ounces? Yeah, like in terms of quantity when it comes to ginger. What's?
So if you're gonna do, let's bring it down to about 16 ounces of water.
Okay.
And you're going to cut about 2 to 3 inches of garlic and slice it or cut it into little pieces. That will get all the juices of the ginger, because remember, it's a root, so it's hard and it needs to be decocted. And you're going to put it in water at low temperature, low boil for about 5 to 7 minutes. Then let it cool, and you can drink that however you would like to drink it. You can drink it as is, put it in your smoothies, add it to your recipes, whatever makes you happy. It needs to be in our kitchen every single day. It's amazing.
I love ginger. I love ginger in different types of foods and stuff. I think there's actually ginger in this greens drink. By the way, anyone watching this podcast right now, I do have a greens smoothie, an island green detox. It's no additional sugar added. It's just like 4 or 5 ingredients. Ironically, I got this without even thinking who I'd be speaking with today. So I think maybe I get like a B+ for my food choice today. But all right, good. I love ginger. I've always liked ginger. Hey, a question. Ginger ale. Okay, if you like ginger, I know. Immediately you're going to go, no, it's crap. It's all bad for you. Is there anything like that's made that you can buy in a store with ginger that you would recommend?
I don't know of any specific brands, but I could tell you that kombucha, for the people that can tolerate it, because it's not for everybody, there's a lot of kombucha out there that is infused with ginger. And you might want to try some of those. I know that the healthy food places like Whole Foods will have alternatives to ginger ale. Remember, ginger ale is mostly sugar, the ones that we buy in the market today. But I'm sure there's alternatives out there that are actually low in sugar. And that takes me to the other 2 herbs that are not really very easy or very common, but I wanted to mention. I'll be remiss if I don't mention it. One of them is technically not an herb, is a fungi, and you've probably heard of it. It's called reishi, Reishi. Reishi is a fungi. The people in China and Japan have been taking it for thousands of years. It's called the longevity mushroom. And we know today, because studies have shown that consuming it regularly literally have the ability to protect us from all kinds of diseases, especially cancer and cognitive decline. And you have to take it in powder form because it's medicinal in nature. Consuming it in food is probably almost impossible. I normally buy my little powder in my health food store or Amazon, and then I take about half a teaspoon every single day on my drink. If you're a coffee drinker, you can add it to your coffee because it has that mild bitter flavor, mimicking coffee. That's the reason why it's so popular today these days, mixed with coffee. But if you're not a coffee drinker, I normally mix it in my hot cacao drink or in my chai latte.
And this, do the spelling on that one more time. REI.
REISHI. Reishi.
Excellent. And it is a mushroom.
It is a fungi. It's a mushroom.
Or fungi. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Mushroom, fungi.
Fungi. Hey, he's a fun guy. That reishi guy is a fun guy.
And
right.
the other one,
it.
because we were talking about sugar, I wanted to mention this one amazing plant called gymnema. And gymnema is spelled gym as in, you're going to the gym. Gym, and then N-E-M-A. Sometimes it's spelled with M-M-A, but it's gymnema. Gymnema is a plant that is called the killer of sugar, because if you take it in tea form, or if you chew on the leaves, it will numb your mouth and your taste buds to sugar only, temporarily. So if you take it and then you have something really sweet, you won't taste the sweet. And it's a great alternative for people. Not only will lower blood sugar levels and will help you slowly reduce your cravings to sugar, but it's a great way to train yourself into not consuming sugar. So if you take it in tea form and then try to take something sweet, eventually your brain will start recognizing, oh, this thing is not as sweet. I don't think I'm going to be interested in taking this anymore.
Wow, how interesting. It kind of numbs, as you said, numbs your taste?
Numbs
or
your
the
taste.
Flavor of sugar, yeah.
Correct. Temporarily. It's not going to be...
Temporarily, right. I mean, there might be people listening and are like, well, I'm going to roll my body in that just so I don't have any interest in sugar.
Trust me, I tried it too. I was like, I'm going to do this every 15 minutes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because again, as I said earlier at the start of our conversation, sugar is really abundant in just about all of our foods, that there's added sugars into things, right? It's very rare. Like I specifically asked for this Island Green Detox is a no sugar added type smoothie. And oftentimes, and I know people who are listening, they want to feel healthier, right? When they make choices sometimes. So they will skip on the fast food and they'll go to like a smoothie place. But you can still have a not very healthy smoothie, but it has a lot of extra kind of crud and crap added to it. So you want to oftentimes try to, just add the fruit, if you want the strawberries or the pineapple or the kiwi or whatever, the spinach, put those things in, but no extra anything. I don't need any extra sweeteners. I don't do that at home when I make a smoothie for myself. I, do like maybe a frozen banana with some berries of some kind with some spinach and maybe like almond milk or some type, something like that, and some scoops of maybe a plant-based protein or whey protein or whatever, and blend it up. I don't need extra sugar added in it.
Very true. So true. And it's also a great reminder that there's power in simplicity. Today, in this day and age, we see all these supplements that, they get more and more complicated, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, we've survived and thrived with just foods that we grab from a tree for thousands of years. We can get back to that.
Yes, absolutely right. You're right. Getting back to that as much as we can, where you're eating, like you said, like the live foods, as often as we can, to eat the kind of more colorful stuff that will go bad quickly is usually a good sign of a healthier food item, right? Yeah. So do your best to spend more time in the produce section of stores, explore and try some different local markets and things where things that are farmed locally is always a good option. there are lots of good choices out there for people. I think we just all kind of get into the rhythm of life where we do the shopping at the same place, the same way, the same direction. It's like, hey, instead of when you get in the store, instead of going right, go left. Try different, try going left.
So true.
Yeah, fill your cart up with green stuff and colorful stuff first, and then see what room you have left over.
And also try something you go to the produce section, and inevitably you're going to see one or two things you've never tried.
Yes.
Period. Have it in small amounts. If you don't like it, that's okay. Toss it out and then try something else tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was young, growing up, I never had an avocado before in my life growing up, ever. I grew up in Connecticut. And they just, I'm sure they existed. I'm sure they were at the store, but my mom never bought one. And so I never saw one or ate one. I didn't even know what the thing was. And then once at a party, I saw guacamole and I said, what is that? And then wouldn't you know it, all these years later, guacamole is one of my favorite things in the whole world to eat. My wife and I love tableside guacamole at a nice restaurant. And so it all depends on just exploring and trying new things. But hey, tell us a little bit, if you would, about your Get Off Sugar program here before we give people some of your social channels and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's like a good overview of what you've created?
Yeah, so the Get Off Sugar program is this program I created because I had so many clients telling me, I don't know how to reduce my sugar cravings. Yes, reducing certain habits and taking some of the teas are actually great, but what else? What am I going to do? Emotionally, in terms of mindfulness techniques instead of lifestyle choices that will help me build a new habit away from sugar craving and into a healthier option. So I created this program not only to teach people why sugar is problematic, but more importantly, how to slowly get away from it without jeopardizing the beautiful things that you just mentioned, right? Like we still want to have amazing fruit because they're really great for us. We still want to have potatoes every so often and some brown rice every so often. We're never going to move away from those, but we have to find a way to live with them and commune with them. And of course, there's a lot of herbs, a lot of blends of herbs that you can consume, not just the gymnema, but others as well, that you can buy in your supermarket. With less than $50, you can buy enough for your entire family and learn how to make these blends, get more water into you, and reduce your sugar cravings with the particular product. It's a very easy program to consume. You can go through it in a matter of just a couple of hours and then take your time implementing.
Love it. Fantastic. And what are some of the best places for people to connect with you and see you? I know I spent some time looking at some of your YouTube content. I know you're on Instagram. What are some of those platforms?
Yeah, so you can probably find me if you type in my name, Jovanka. Jovanka is an Eastern European name, and I might be the only brown Jovanka in the world.
I love it.
You type in Jovanka and my last name, which I know is complicated, Ciares. You'll probably find me. And if you also type Reclaiming Wellness, which is my platform and my latest book, it's impossible for you not to find me everywhere on social media, with the exclusion of TikTok, which I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yes. Yeah. We're all of us of a certain age. I'm 46. I would not say I'm a TikToker at this stage, but I'm learning. I'm learning from the younger folks what we need to start doing there. To grow that side. So her spelling again, Jovanka Ciares, is Jovanka. Her first name, Ciares, Ciares. And if you just look that up on those different platforms, I'm sure you'll locate her. She has some great video content that I saw on YouTube, doing regular uploads there. As well as on Instagram, and you did a TED Talk some years back.
I did a TED Talk in 2012. Yeah, awesome.
So fantastic! I love it. It's been so fun. I really found it intriguing and interesting. Genuinely, I love learning about this stuff and sharing this with our listeners. So thank you so much for making time for the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun as well.
It was a lot of fun. We keep it fun here on Strong by Design. Thank you, listeners, so much for joining us again for another fantastic episode. Please check the description area for all the links and ways to connect with Jovanka, and you'll be able to continue to follow her and see what she's doing in the world. We'll be back next week, as always, with another episode here on the Strong by Design podcast. I thank you so much. Please hit that 5 stars. Give us a review. We would love it. And share this episode with someone who could benefit from all of the great information today. God bless you.